So a few weeks ago, I met this wonderful woman. I don't even remember how we met. Maybe she does. I'll get her to maybe bring that up when we're on because I don't remember, to be honest. I'm old. What can I tell you? But anyway, we got together, we were talking, and she was telling me a little bit of her story, and I discovered that her health journey was so reminiscent of things that I've been through, that people I know have been through, that family members have been through. And she found a solution and came out on the other side just fine. And so I wanted her to share that with everyone because you know how big I am about natural health. So, welcome to the Rebel Tribe podcast. It's the space for women who refuse to play small, refuse to settle for less, or stay in the box that society tries to put us in. I'm Melodian Whiteley, your host, your coach, and your biggest cheerleader, and I'm here to give you the real, raw, and unfiltered truth about what it takes to build the life that you want on your terms. So, this is where mindset meets strategy and confidence meets action, and doubt, well, we're just kind of going to leave that behind. So no fluff, no sugarcoating, just real conversations, real growth, and real results. So if you're ready to shake things up a little, step into your power and create a life that's as bold and unstoppable as you are, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Rebel Tribe. Let's do this today with Jen. Jen Hight, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I can't wait for you to share your story. 'Cause like I said, I found it so inspiring after some of the things that and people that I know have been through. So if you could just take us right back to the beginning when your health struggles began and tell us what were those? It was 12 years, right?
I struggled with chronic UTIs for 12 years. Yes.
Let's hear about that.
So basically, as I look back, anytime there's a health journey and when something starts chronically, I got my first UTI ever on my honeymoon. So that was exciting. And I didn't know that all of those UTIs would follow, but that was the starting point for me. So looking back, I didn't have the healthiest habits leading up to that point. I was working long hours at a corporate job. Because I was working so much, my stress level was pretty high. And then because I was working so much, I was also not making the best food choices. So I was eating a lot of processed food. I remember I would leave work sometimes and I'd pick up fried chicken at the grocery store and just things that were not the healthiest for my body. And I started doing that for years. And then I got married and I hadn't had sex before I got married. And that basically for me, my body was not in a great place going into that, but then it just started this repeated process of UTIs. And so, as we all know, when you get sick, it typically doesn't happen between Monday and Friday. You're going to urgent care a lot. It starts getting expensive. And then the issue that I found is I just wasn't getting better. It was very frustrating that year after year, I would just keep getting these UTIs. And I would remember begging doctors, like, what can I do? I'm just exhausted. I'm tired of getting these. I think I was becoming antibiotic resistant because I had taken so many antibiotics. They were just starting not to work anymore. And I just would keep getting UTIs. So I would have multiple every single year for 12 years straight.
So at what point did you realize that conventional medicine just wasn't going to work for you?
Well, basically, what happened is so, along with having all those UTIs, I would have sinus infections. I was just kind of sick all the time, and I just would ask for help. And everybody was very nice, but I just felt like I never really got the help that I needed. So, I was at a pretty open point to alternative solutions at that point because I was just so desperate and I didn't know what else to do. The other issue that started developing after I had my two kids, when I was done nursing my youngest child, she um basically what happened is my periods started coming back and they started coming back really strong. And so I was really struggling with just painful, heavy periods. It got to the point I remember tracking it and they were 17 days on average, really long, really heavy. I was borderline anemic, but not anemic. I would just keep going to the doctor and asking for all these different tests because obviously I knew in my 30s something was wrong and I just couldn't figure out what it was. And so I got to a point where I sat down with my husband and I said, I have to figure this out. I don't care how much it costs, but I cannot live like this anymore. And so I remember doing during a 2 year period, I went to four different doctors. And we spent a lot of money requesting all these different blood tests, and nothing really came up wrong. And they basically would just keep telling me like, well, you're okay. It's just, you could do a hysterectomy if you want, you could do an ablation, you could do all these things. And there's nothing wrong with any of those procedures. But for myself, I just felt just deep in my soul that that wasn't the answer for me at that point. In my 30s, I wasn't ready to get a hysterectomy. One doctor did think I had cancer, and so I did have an internal biopsy. But when that came back negative, and I found out I did not have cancer, I was mentally preparing, like maybe I have to do this. And when I found out it wasn't cancerous, I said, you know what? No, I don't feel like this is the right decision for me at my age right now. I need to figure out the root cause of what is going on. So when I had one doctor sit down and look me in the eye and said, we've run all these tests, nothing is wrong. Do you want to just schedule? I had four doctors tell me, do you want to just do a hysterectomy? That will solve your problems. And I didn't want to. And so the other alternative they gave for me of all the testing that I did, the only thing they said that was slightly off in my body, not even terrible, but that my testosterone level was a little bit low. And so they said the best treatment they could offer me was a bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And from what I understand, that's very popular. I know the doctor that I did it for, or that I did it through, he said that he does hundreds of those injections a month, and that it's great, and that there's no side effects, and it's fine. What I've learned since then is everybody's body is unique. And although that might work great for many people, I'm happy for them. It didn't work for me. So I got that injection and I immediately got very ill. And I felt really sick. I was gut nauseous for a week. The worst part, the doctor didn't believe me. They said it wasn't the injection. They said that I must have just gotten the flu suddenly, miraculously at the same time, a little bit after that injection. And so I was just feeling very frustrated. I ended up having to leave that doctor's office because they just wouldn't believe me, that anything was wrong with me. I almost crashed my car with my kids in it, passing out because my heart was just beating out of my chest. And I somehow had some sort of allergic reaction to whatever was in those pellets that shot. And so after that point, I said, I am done with all of this. I can't do it anymore. And I need to find a new solution. So then what happened is I was coordinating a toddler play group at the time. And I met a mom in that play group, and she recommended a naturopath to me. And because of all the different things I had just been through, I was at that point where I was looking for other options, but I had no idea what to do. At that point, I was not into natural products. I was really not into natural solutions. I didn't have any knowledge in that area, but I thought, what the heck? I just have to do something different. So as I was feeling really bad, I went and I saw this lady, and she looked at me. I brought her papers, all this blood work that I had done, and I want her to give me some magic answer or some magic pill or something that I could do. And she just looked at me in the eye and she said, your body is, she does saliva testing. And she says, your body is toxic. You have chemical overload in your body. You need to change your laundry detergent. You need to change all the personal care products you're using, your shampoo and your body washes and your lotions. You need to cut out fragrance from everything that you're using. She just started telling me all this overwhelming information. And I just kind of sat there puzzled, thinking, how is changing my shampoo and my laundry detergent going to help my painful, long, heavy periods? And I kind of didn't believe her. I mean, honestly, at that point, I didn't really think that that is what I needed to hear. And then change my diet, reduce my stress level. I mean, she was just telling me all these things, and I was so overwhelmed. But at the same time, there was something deep inside of me that said, you know what? What else am I going to do? I have no idea. I just said I can't live like this. And I didn't feel ready to sign up for a hysterectomy. So at that moment, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to see this friend at this play group again, and she's going to ask me, how did my appointment go? And I think I'm just going to try it. I'm going to try to start implementing some of these crazy things this lady is telling me, and we'll just see. So I went in also with a very skeptical spirit. I didn't really think anything was going to work or change for me, but I was desperate. So I'm like, you know what? What do I have to lose? I'll give it a shot. And I didn't know it back then, but that was the beginning of my health journey and getting well.
And you just told the story that so many women go through. We know there's something wrong. We can tell, we listen to our bodies. We know we have a problem. We try to tell the doctors. The doctors don't listen. and they either write us off as, hysterical psychosomatic females, or yes, their pat answer is, let's just do a hysterectomy. That'll fix it all. No problem. Ah, so frustrating. And then, yes, you get overwhelmed with go home and take every toxic product out of your house. Do you know how many there
Mhm.
are? Because I started
There's
down
a
the
lot.
same path. Yes, I started down the same path a little while ago, and I'm not nearly as good at it as you are, I admit. But I did have cancer, and that started me. And yes, I started going through removing slowly but surely as many things as I could. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming the amount of toxins that we put in our bodies and on our bodies and just in our house every day. What were the first steps? How did you start figuring out and proceed with doing this?
So really, I mean, like you said, it is a process. It isn't something that you do overnight. And I'll say, I don't remember exactly how long it took me, but basically you have to start with one thing, whatever you're convicted of. So I had a lot of major issues and I wasn't feeling well. And I knew that I was going to make a lot of changes really quickly. And so one of the big things I started with was food. So because I had these heavy periods, one of the things she told me is that soy can be a big hormone disruptor, and especially in the form of processed food. So, as an example, if we buy any processed food, it is very common that one of the first ingredients is soybean oil, or somewhere in that list is a lot of soy. And so it's just a signal, heavily processed items. And so that was one of the big things. There's obviously, lists of all these different things, but that was one of the main things I focused on. And then, as much as I could, I tried to start cutting out processed food. So, again, when you're busy, especially when you have little kids, it's really easy to fall into this pattern of just eating a lot of processed food. You don't have a lot of energy to make things. I was not feeling well, so I wasn't super motivated, but there are a lot of easy things we can eat. We can eat bananas and apples and carrots and things that don't even take much time to prepare, but just changing what our natural things that we grab are. And so those little changes can start having a big impact. And then something else I did from a product perspective, because that was really overwhelming. If you start opening up your cabinet, again, I was buying a lot of the worst items, stuff with bright colored dyes, really heavily fragranced laundry detergents, and all these things I used for years, and they didn't bother me. I never suffered from chronic migraines like some people I knew. But when she started telling me all this, I'm like, okay, this is hard. And one of the things she recommended to me is Young Living Essential Oils has a Thieves product line. And so it is an actual non toxic plant based cleaning product line. And so that was something that it made it easier, because I think what's also very overwhelming for people like me that don't have a scientific background, when I go to the store and I look at a label, it's hard for me to determine really what is good, what is not. Now I feel like now there are a lot more apps where you can scan products, but several years ago, all those things, there just weren't as many of those options. And then the other thing that I've found is even now, as I look at some of the apps and as I look at websites like EWG, Environmental Working Group, all of those sites, it's a great starting point, but it hides a lot of bad ingredients. So one thing I always caution people to do is, as you're new and as you're just trying to figure out what's good and what's not, if you can find a company that you can trust, that makes a big difference. So I really like that I was able to trust the quality of these products. This Thieves cleaning line, they have a laundry detergent and it's a concentrate. So I started using that. I started using, there's a cleaning concentrate, and then I started using that. They just have a full line of products. So that makes it kind of easy. And then it's concentrate, so you dilute it. So it ends up being super cost effective. And so that was a way that I was able to start gradually making those changes.
I'm just listening to you, and it's like flashbacks because, yes, you go to the store and things that you've been told all your life are healthy, and then you find out, maybe not so much. I have one of those apps. I like it, and yes, I understand there's a lot of them out there that are a little questionable, but this one so far seems pretty reliable. And I'm scanning things. that are labeled all natural, and and you scan them and the thing comes back saying they're like poor or bad. And I'm just like, okay then. And I've been eating this all this time because I was told. I mean, it says healthy right on the label, or all natural right on
Right.
the label, or no what's it no additives. Like, okay, what do you consider
Hmm.
an additive? I guess because the app says you're loaded with them. So
Hmm.
oh goodness, yes, I'm there with you. Find the app, ladies. Find that app. Find a good one and use it, because you will be amazed at the amount of stuff out there that you think is good for you that's actually not. Now,
Hmm.
you talked about your periods, and yes, yes, this is going to offend you. Sign off now, because if you were on the menopause episode, then you understand we don't hold any we don't pull any punches here. We talk about it because it's important to us. So you had some very painful, heavy period. 17 days. Oh my God, I think I'd kill myself.
Hmm.
I really do. 17.
Not fun.
What do you wish more women actually knew about hormone health and natural healing?
Well, one of the things that I think is really important for us to consider is that it's not just any one thing. I think we're living in a culture where we're looking for really quick fixes. And I think a lot of these issues actually start much earlier. When I look back at my history, I can see myself being overworked. And things like stress and not getting enough sleep and the products we use, all of these things really factor in. Things like exercise, all those things that we know are healthy habits, and anyone would recognize and agree, oh, yeah, those are healthy things. I should sleep more. I shouldn't stress. I shouldn't work so many hours at my corporate job, or, I work too hard taking care of my kids if you're staying at home with children. But all of those things really matter. And so I think when our body is in a state where it's just so worn down and so worn out, we can get into, and I suffered from this in the beginning because that was a lot of my story, from adrenal fatigue, where our body is just it's just so gone. We just need rest and we need sleep to heal our bodies. And so that is something that is important as we start thinking about a health journey. It is important what we eat, the products that we use, but all those other factors, everything works together to create a healthy body.
Oh, but we're trained every day that if you have a problem, there's a pill will fix that. Come on.
Hmm.
I do believe, though, in taking some supplements. I do take a few, not very many, but a few. Were there any? Did you take any supplements that made any kind of?
Yeah, I actually take a lot of supplements now. So years ago, I didn't take anything. I didn't really like supplements. I didn't think that they really did anything. And so I was very skeptical of supplements for a long time. But I do agree with you now. As I learn more even about nutrition, even when we are on a health journey and we're trying to eat really well, one of the things that I have learned is that unless we are growing all of our food ourselves in our yard, it's all organically grown. Most of our food, especially if we're buying it, we have some farmers markets around here, but realistically, to feed a whole family, we can't get everything from a farmer's market. With where we live, we just don't have access to all the food that a lot of us eat all the time. So inevitably, when we're shopping at the grocery store, a lot of our food is, even if we're buying fresh food, is lacking in vitamins and minerals, and the soil today is typically not as rich as the soil years ago. And so it is just really hard, even when we're working at doing our best to eat well, to get all of our nutrition from food alone. And so, yes, I do use some supplements now. One important thing, especially for anybody like me that was on antibiotics for so long, is a good quality probiotic. So there's food that is rich in probiotics, but I think, again, depending on what your history is, a good quality probiotic is so important. And there are so many good probiotic companies. I think there's lots of different options that you can choose from. So I think that is really foundational. That affects the immune system as well. So again, good probiotics are really good. One of the things that I have started taking that helps the immune system, helps energy level, helps sleep, helps so many things, is a high antioxidant goji berry supplement. It's a liquid drink. It is just so nutrition focused. And so when we have those nutritional gaps, taking high quality supplements is really great. For additional immune support, because I had so many years of chronic antibiotics, I think my system was just really worn down. So, in addition to UTIs, I started getting all kinds of other sicknesses and at the beginning of that journey. And so, my naturopath really recommended that I start taking elderberry syrup every day. And so, the first thing I did is I went to the store and I started looking at all the options. And honestly, I did not like most of what I saw. A lot of the elderberry syrup options or just elderberry gummies or all those things, when you go to the store, it has things like processed sugar in it, or it has all these different forms of glucose. And I'm like, glucose and sugar, that actually harms our immune system. I don't want to even take some of what I saw out there. And so I started making my own. And that's something that I became very passionate about, just seeing how doing some of these natural supplements can really affect our immune systems. Like I said, today I do take several supplements, but one early on that I took, stress depletes the B vitamins in our bodies. And so I think most people, especially women, could benefit from a good quality B supplement. So I do take that every day as well. And I think something just to keep in mind is everybody's body is different. And so everyone's supplemental needs is going to be different depending on your lifestyle and your stress load and the other things that affect you. Like sleep is so important for healing and restoration. And so if you have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, you may consider, taking certain things to help you sleep just so you can get that rest that you really need.
Do you mind? Well, first I'm going to give you a plug for your elderberry syrup, okay? She makes the best elderberry syrup. So if you're looking for a source, I'm just saying. And there's
Thank you so much.
no junk in it. There's no junk.
Yes. Local raw honey, that's all you need. And that's the thing. Good elderberry should not have all these different processed sugars in them.
Now, do you mind if we talk a little bit about your son? Because this is the other thing that just made me feel like we were destined to meet. Because my daughter went through some very serious health issues when she was 4 and 5, and to this day we don't know what was wrong with her. She was sick, 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 and then we moved from where we were, and I honestly think it was the environment. I think it was environmental toxins, because as soon as we moved, she's been fine ever since. But I admit,
Mhm.
every time she starts showing any kind of and she's 40, okay? So 40 years later, she's anytime she starts looking the least little bit sick, or I start wondering, is it coming back? Are we starting to this again? Because we still don't know what was wrong.
Hmm.
We moved, she got well. I think it was the environment, but back then you couldn't say such a thing. You'd be looked at with like, yeah, okay, sure it was. But
Yeah,
your
that's so
son had
hard.
problems, so if you don't mind, can we talk about that? Because you said he went through a very difficult period. Um, do you want to talk about that? I know it's a little.
Yeah, we absolutely can. I'm an open book, so sure, we can go ahead and talk about that. So basically, with my son, when he started kindergarten, we were still trying to eat pretty healthy. I was going through, my own health journey. I was working through all of that, so I was really focused on as much as I could on eating natural foods, and so I was cooking healthy family meals for my family. My kids were eating pretty healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner, mostly homemade food. I would pack school lunch. But then when he started going to school in kindergarten, he would start requesting certain snacks because he would see all the other kids eating just the common childhood snacks that you always see in a package. And I was just sending him with, healthy food, nothing processed, homemade things. And so he started requesting certain snacks by name. And I remember at that time thinking, maybe I'm too strict. I'm just a little bit too over the top, because I would go and have lunch with him at school and I would see what everybody else was eating for their whole lunch. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm too much. So I started buying some of those snacks that he had requested, things like Cheez-Its and Goldfish and just a lot of other things. And so we would start having a snack at lunchtime. Then he might get to have one more snack after school. He played soccer for years. And so, you would go to soccer or go to, another sports practice or go to a friend's house and maybe have another snack. So this child was not even eating that much what we would call junk food. At the time he got really sick, most people would probably still describe him and our family as some of the healthier people that they knew. And so, what started to happen over time, though, is I noticed he started developing extreme aggression. And this is a child that is normally very shy, very quiet, but just started getting more aggressive, just having anger outbursts, needing to punch things. Again, just completely out of character. And honestly, I had no idea what was going on. And you can always brush it off. Oh, he's tired. He's overstimulated. We were too busy. He didn't get enough sleep, whatever. You can always make excuses for what's going on. I never made the connection that if he ate one thing, he would have an anger outburst. Now, maybe that was going on. But again, as a busy mom, I just never connected the dots there. But we got to a point where things became so critical that my first grader was becoming overly aggressive and raging suicidal. And when you think about those type of things, he was not on screens a lot at that point, so it wasn't that. We have a very I'm married and we have a very healthy marriage, home life. He didn't have any death in the family. Like there was nothing triggering. He had a very stable, happy, loving home environment, had friends, everything was good. And so there was no environmental things really going on that should trigger him in that way. And so we got to the point where it was so bad, I reached out to his school counselor and I asked, if he was showing any of these behaviors at school, and he wasn't. So he was able to hold it together in school, but it just started escalating and become progressively worse. So really what we found out later is there was this 2-year period from kindergarten to first grade when he started having all these processed snacks in small amounts. All these toxins were bioaccumulating in his body. And for some reason, he couldn't detox it. So it got to the point where it was really, really bad. He was starting to see the school counselor, and she was really sweet and helpful. But I was starting to feel like no one was understanding how critical how this had gotten. And so we reached a point where I said he needs to go into a psychologist or psychiatrist. I think he needs medication. Like he's not okay. Still not making the connection of what was happening, but it was getting so bad where my husband and I were starting to get afraid to go to sleep at night. We didn't know if he was going to harm or kill himself at night or do something to us. I mean, it was that bad. Again, as a first grader, I was starting to think he was possessed by a demon. I mean, it was crazy. It's like my sweet little boy just wasn't himself anymore. I had people praying over him. I had some friends out of state that I would call and they would pray with me and all these things. It was just something was off, but we didn't know what it was. So the hard part is living in Northwest Arkansas. It can be very difficult to get into psychiatrist's office. So I had connected with psychiatrists. I could not get that child an appointment. And there was a period where I would call for a few days every day, like, I need to get in. I'll come in at any time. And they couldn't get me in. And they basically said, okay, we'll call you back. And I'd say, listen, I can't wait. Like, I might have to hospitalize my kid. And they're like, we'll get back to you. And so I was in this desperate place that I didn't know what to do, but I knew that I had to do something. And so I had been working with that naturopath for myself physically to get through my heavy periods. I was healing, my body was doing great. And so I just had this trust with her. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call her and just see if she can test his saliva. I'm not even going to tell her what is going on, but I just want to see what comes back and if there's anything we can do until we can get into this psychiatrist. And so I did the saliva test. She got back to me very quickly. And she said he had an extreme neurological reaction to MSG and food dye from the things he was eating. And at that moment, as a mom, it just kind of took my breath away. And she's like, I don't even understand how this is coming up. Aren't you eating healthy? She's been walking me through all these things that I've been doing to heal myself. And I said, well, yeah, I'm eating healthy. I'm cooking healthy food, but he's a child. And so I knew at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, all these snacks that I've been giving my kid, even though it doesn't seem like that much, it was all bioaccumulating in his body and he had a critical issue. So when she told me that, again, that felt very overwhelming. Because he was so sick, she's like, you have to clear out that child's body. You need to go completely gluten free, go as grain free as you can, and you have to get rid of all of that all the snack food immediately. So having a first grader, any mom will know that's really, really difficult. But again, I was so desperate. I didn't know what to do. Again, I didn't really know if it would work, but I'm like, I'm going to just keep calling the psychiatrist. But while we wait, we'll just give it a shot because, again, we can barely make it day to day at this point. So I immediately got rid of all the snack food in the house. It was just all of a sudden gone. Of course, that caused more rage and it made the situation more desperate and extreme at first. But she recommended certain essential oils, which again, I think can be different by person, but she recommended certain essential oils on different points of his body. But I think for him, one of the main things was just completely stripping his diet. He went down to just meat, fruits, and vegetables, and he was not happy about it, but that's what we did. And I remember keeping a journal at that point of what he was eating. And 8 days later, this child that went from angry, aggressive, suicidal. It was like the snap of a finger. 8 days later was fine.
And how's he doing now? Is he still good?
He's doing great. He's doing really well. We did maintain that super strict diet for, I think it was like 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. We had to really totally clean out and reset his body. And now we don't even have to be as strict with his diet. But one of the things that we learned during that time is our bodies can only take so much. And I think the scary thing is what so many of us don't realize, whether it's food additives, whether it's all of the fragrances and toxins in all of our products, all of us have a different threshold. But I really believe at some point, our body can only take so much, and then it starts manifesting in other ways. It could, be extreme allergies that develop. I think often we see it in the form of cancer, especially later in life. But, you're seeing more just younger people getting different types of aggressive cancers. And I think all of these things just have a factor. But we cleaned out his body. And so now we're just very mindful. As a family, we strictly cut food dye. I don't eat any food dye anymore. I have a daughter and she doesn't eat it either. And she never had a reaction like this. But when I saw and heard and started to read and research and understand what food additives like MSG in snack food, specifically any like chips and crackers and things that have flavors, it's typically flavored and has MSG in it. It can be hidden under the word natural flavors. So anytime you go to the grocery store and you're buying a snack, it can be hidden under dozens of different names, but it usually doesn't say MSG or monosodium glutamate. It's all these other words. And so we're just very mindful of what we buy. I'm very mindful of what we bring in the house. And on the flip side, I'm still very much aware that he is a child and he's going to go out and he's sometimes going to eat something and it might not be the best. But I'm trying to teach him, we have to really practice moderation. And I think one of the struggles that we have in our society is we're getting to a point where there's all of this, food dye and other additives in our food, and we're eating it every single day. And you just don't know at what point that's going to affect you. But what I see a lot of is kids that have ADHD. A lot of them are being medicated. And what's really interesting is we finally did get into that psychiatrist. It took us several weeks. That's scary that it took several weeks to get into that appointment. But when we finally got there, he was doing fine. And we talked about it. And he said, he told me to my face, I medicate children all the time because parents are unwilling to do what you have already done. A psychiatrist admitted this. He believes it. And he said, and not maybe not every psychiatrist has that opinion. But I saw someone in Fayetteville and that's what he told me. And it's just so interesting. Like I think some of the issue is, and I know me as a mom, I felt this way for a long time. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's on the grocery shelf. Of course, it's safe. It has to be tested in some way. If they knew that it was dangerous, it wouldn't be sold to us. And I have learned that that is just not true. There's a lot of dangerous products out there on the shelf, and all that bioaccumulation can hit us at any point.
All right, I got to talk about family life because, like I said, I had cancer several years ago,
Mm.
many years ago, actually. I've been cancer free for quite a while now.
Hmm.
And that started my journey down the path of trying to find natural, healthier ways to live. Um, and healing doesn't just affect the body, and it doesn't just affect me. It impacted my entire life because now I'm either going to cook 2 or 3 different meals because my children were grown at that by that time they were fairly grown, and my husband is not he wouldn't eat a vegetable if he was starving to death. So how did your healing journey impact your marriage and your parenting? Because it is hard. Like I said, I either cook too, and he's getting better. He is getting better. He's eating more healthfully now, thank God. But for a while there, it was crazy. I was cooking like 2 and 3 separate meals every night, and it's insane. How did you handle that? How did
Yeah.
it impact your marriage?
So basically, what we did, so maybe I was fortunate because my kids were pretty young. My son was my oldest, and he was in first grade. And then he has a sister 2.5 years younger than him. So they were really just at the mercy of whatever I put in front of them for meals. And my husband, obviously, this was a situation that was very extreme. So as a family walks through this, even my daughter, like she's afraid of dye. She's afraid of eating food dye. I don't even have to pressure her not to eat it because she lived through everything with her brother. And she, even as a young toddler, like she still clearly remembers everything that happened. It was very intense and it was scary. It terrified her as a young child. And we've had to work on some emotional healing for her. So basically, as a family, we just got all on board together because the other thing is, because the issues were so extreme, I talked to my husband. I said, listen, we're going strict gluten free. We're not bringing any gluten into the house because, again, we don't want our child to be sneaking stuff that he shouldn't be eating. We have to reset his body. We were very fortunate for that healing to take place in 8 days. I feel like that maybe is kind of quick to see such a drastic change, but I really believe it's because of how we were extreme we were so quickly. So basically, that was kind of how I learned to cook. Honestly, before that point, I cooked a little bit, but I would just buy a boxed pasta and a jar of sauce, and we cook up some meat, put it in there. We ate a lot more just traditional American food. I would cook homemade food, but I learned to cook meat and vegetables. I mean, we ate a lot of just meat and vegetables. And yeah, with kids, maybe they're eating a lot of like carrots and peas, and maybe they're not eating all these exotic, amazing vegetables. My kids are still a little picky, but the other interesting thing is once you start eating in a certain way, it changes everybody's palate. And so even today, we are fine and we can eat different food, but I learned from way back then how much better I felt. I started losing baby weight that my body was holding on to because I was just eating so much better. And then I noticed, oh my gosh, I'm feeling better. I didn't think I was gluten sensitive, but I realized like, oh my gosh, all this belly bloat that I had and, some extra weight I was carrying around my middle, like it's gone. And I wasn't even like really trying or working out or doing anything. I was busy cooking food all the time. But I just started realizing how much better I felt. And so I think we all felt it. And my husband was busy. He was working at his corporate job. He really didn't have time to make his own separate food. And so he was just kind of, well, I'm just going to eat whatever you put in front of me too, because I don't really have the time or energy to make something different. And I certainly didn't have the time or energy. I was trying to cook really healthy food, focusing on my son's health. Um, that I didn't have time to make multiple meals. So everyone kind of had to eat what I would make. And we just kind of all worked through it together. And I think it was really healthy and great for all of us.
So what is a typical day like now? I mean, you're a busy mom, obviously, 2 kids, and I every time I try to catch you, I'm out the door to go do this or I gotta go do that. How do you maintain this healthy lifestyle and still do all these other things that you're responsible for? Because I
I
hear
think
that a
some
lot.
of it
No,
Yeah, I think some of it is you have to figure out what works for your family. So, what we do as a family, we have a lot of evening commitments. My kids right now, they're 13 and almost 11. My daughter is almost 11. And so we're running. I mean, we're in that busy stage of life. Any moms know, like, we're not home at dinner time a lot, but guess what? We still don't eat fast food. And so, how we do it is I work in the parameters that I have. So, we a lot of times, whether that's a weekend or whether that's late a weeknight, but we will make meat in bulk. So my husband will help me grill chicken. And so we'll make a whole grill full of chicken and I'll freeze some of it. We'll prepare some for the week and then put a little bit in the freezer. We'll also try to cook like brown ground beef in bulk. So again, whenever you have time, you could do it in the middle of the day, you could do it late at night, you could do it on a weekend, but I will make a big pot of ground beef and I will freeze that in baggies. So I have it ready to go in 1 or 2 pound portions. And so that will make for quick meals through the week. I also love to use a crock pot. And so that's nice because you could throw that in the work, before work in the morning, or you could do it in the middle of the day and then you can have dinner ready. So we do a lot of soups. I make chili, but a lot of stuff in my crock pot. And so that's how I handle a lot of quick meals. And then for myself personally, I love to just eat salad for lunch. Now, I used to hate salad. I didn't like salad, but I've learned that I can just do what I call a refrigerator clean out by just eating salad for lunch. We always have this bulk chicken on hand that we've grilled. And then I buy fresh salad greens. And then whatever leftover fruits and vegetables I have, I just put that on a salad with a homemade dressing. And that's typically how I'll eat most days.
And your dressing was wonderful, by the way. I'm not
Oh,
supposed to
thank you
share
so
the
much.
recipe. You need to share the recipe. It was really good. Most homemade dressings that I've tried are nasty, to be honest. Yours is very good.
Well, thank you very much.
If someone listening is just feeling exhausted and sick and lost and they're listening to us and they're like, I need to do something, but I don't even know where to start. I've just gotten all of this great advice and they're probably sitting there in that state of overwhelm going, I have to go clean out all the toxins in my house and I have to start cooking food every night and I can't do this. What's the one piece of advice that you would give them so that they can start their own healing journey today, one step at a time?
I think you hit it right there. It's one step at a time. If you can just pick an area that you're convicted and try doing one thing. If you find yourself that you're getting fast food multiple times a week, maybe try to cut that back by 1 meal or 2 meals. Um, try making a bunch of chicken or beef or whatever your family likes. You've got to figure out hard-boiled eggs is another super easy, inexpensive thing. If your family likes beans, but pick eating healthy is going to be a key to feeling well. And so just trying to take one little step. Maybe you drink a lot of soda and that's adding a lot of sugar, to your diet. Maybe you stop doing that and you replace it with a healthier drink or water to save money or whatever it is. But if you pick one area where you're motivated, if food just feels too overwhelming and you can't start with food, maybe you start with products. One of the things my naturopath said that kind of caught me off guard is one of the most important products to consider as you want to get healthier is what are you washing your clothes with? If you're washing your clothes with a heavily fragranced commercial laundry detergent, all of that toxin, it's on your clothing, it's outgassing in your entire house, and it's sitting on your skin. And everything on our skin is absorbing into our bloodstream, and that's going to affect our hormones and how we feel. So maybe your first step is you change your laundry detergent. Maybe you're just feeling so tired and you feel winded when you walk up your stairs in your house and you just know you've gained some extra weight and you really would like to let that go. Maybe you start exercising a little bit or even just walking. I found even if I start to feel overwhelmed with anything, just going for a 10-minute walk around my neighborhood, and even better if you can focus on breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you feel really overwhelmed, like you can't do another thing, maybe you try to squeeze in a walk. Maybe that's early in the morning. Maybe it's on your lunch break. Maybe it's in the evening. It doesn't matter when it is, but just finding that time for yourself because maybe you need to just focus on just some breathing before you're ready to start tackling other things. But I think the biggest thing is just picking something and trying it. And also if you can find community, I think that's really huge. I love to help people and I've noticed after my health journey, it's if we can get people in that direction of making one step, one healthy change and they start to feel a little bit better, it just gives them energy to take the next step and motivation. And so finding somebody that can help you and walk alongside of you can be really big as well.
You just talked about communities. You've lived here, what, 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you found a strong natural health community here? Because I'm going to be honest, I read the Blue Zones and I was immediately like, this is off. I don't know if you know the whole Blue Zones concept, but I've read the books
No.
and I've tried to incorporate a lot of that into my own lifestyle. And one of the things he suggests is what they call a MOI, which is a group of women who are going to support each other through their health journey. And I immediately went out there like, this is awesome. I need to find these women and started looking around. There weren't any. Okay. No one said, sure, I'll get up and go for a walk with you every day. Or yeah, nobody. So I'm asking, have you found that community? Because if you have, I want in.
I think that it kind of depends. There are some resources out there, but I'll be honest, where I am at right now and where so many of my close friends are at is we're in that very full life stage of we have children. Some are working full time and have kids and trying to juggle all of that. Some are working part time. Some of us stay at home, but it doesn't matter where, like what you're doing, whether you're working full time or not. The common themes that I find is everyone feels busy and overwhelmed and stressed in some capacity, whether it's with health or children's activities or just something. So I think you're right. It can be hard to find people that are committed or are available at the exact same time that you are available. I think it's out there, but it can be hard to find. I do have a friend, her name is Stephanie, and she started a natural products store. It's on the east side of Rogers. So shout out to her. It's called the Well Nest Shop, and that's in East Rogers. So she has a bunch of natural products. It's a store. I know she does some workshops there. Some of it is like for new moms. I know they've done like breastfeeding workshops, and there's all kinds of different things that they do. I've also kind of just tried to start my own community. I really just feel like when we go through something, I really do believe that God works all things together for the good. And so even the hardest things we walk through, especially those health journeys, other people really can just benefit from hearing our stories. And so I've started just doing natural wellness classes in my home. And so that's something that I offer to people. And then apart from that, I meet with a lot of friends one on one. I just have one person come over. And if they are struggling with something, when people start a natural health journey, the other thing that I hear all the time is they say it's too expensive. I can't do it. And so I show people how they can make products. And I think there can be some community in that. And so, again, it doesn't have to be a large community. It can even just be one person. You might go to an event, like check out Stephanie and her wellness shop and the different workshops she offers. And maybe you go to an event like that once, and maybe you meet a couple people that are like-minded or in a similar life stage or have similar goals. So I find that I'm just meeting people all the time through my kids' activities, and we're really involved in church. And so just all the different things we do, we meet people. And so I think I'm just trying to create that community myself, honestly. So I love to partner with people. And then I make a lot of products. Like you said, I sell elderberry. I do other natural health products too. And I have an online community. So for customers of mine that buy products through me, connecting online, it's not the same as in person, but there's some friendships there that I've developed for years. And those are people that we can turn to with questions. And so even becoming part of like-minded online communities, I think can be really helpful. And we can all learn from each other and encourage each other and inspire each other. One of the other things that I have done is through that online community, I actually, there was a group of women that started something called the 14-day reset. And so, like you said, sometimes it can be hard to find people that are willing to walk with you every day or do something, but you can connect even through online communities. And so, even if people don't live in the same place as you can be working towards similar goals. So, like in this example, you're going to focus on things like I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to focus on whole foods. I'm going to drink a goji berry supplement drink every single day that's going to give me energy to get through those things. And so, even just incorporating some of those simple habits with other people, you're doing it together over the same time period. That can be really encouraging and motivational to keep going and just mutually encourage each other.
Do you have any resources like books or? podcasts or Stephanie's that you want to recommend?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the Wellness Shop, I think, is a great local resource for people that live in Northwest Arkansas, in Rogers. So I think that one is great. I took a couple notes here of things that I've just liked. One of them, if you have if for anyone that has children, or if you're just questioning food dye specifically, I feel like this has been a little bit more, it's been in the news a little bit more. Red dye number 3 was finally banned. Yay. It's a start, but you know what? All the other dyes are just as bad. Honestly, I think that there's a lot of other dyes that may be cancer causing. There's a lot of studies out there. But if you're just really curious, or if you've been convicted at all that, you know what, I notice, because I have many friends that say, I notice when my kid eats red dye 40, which is a very popular dye in candy. Valentine's Day is coming up. And what's super scary is parents are going to go to the store and they're going to be buying all this candy often for Valentine's Day. I have school age children, so I know that when there's a Valentine's party, inevitably there's a ton of stuff with dye. And guess what? We don't eat it, but a lot of kids do. And so there is a TED Talk that is phenomenal. It is by Dr. Rebecca Bevans. I'm going to spell that Bevans. And she basically shares a very similar story to mine, but because she is a doctor, she walked through this journey with her son, I think when he was like 7 or 8. So this is a really powerful one about dye. There are so many books that I have read over the years, and I don't think it's about finding a laundry list of books. But anything on nutrition, I think can be really good, whatever that looks like for you. I think it can be really great to focus on not fad diets. I feel like in the past several years, we hear so many trendy diets that come out. And again, everybody's nutritional needs are different. And I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to make judgments on how people should eat. But one of the things that I feel very strongly about is our bodies need a ton of nutrients. And so, as you're looking at books or resources with diet, I think it's really important to consider lifestyle diet. You know, what do you want to do? As a family, we are not strictly gluten free anymore. We will sometimes order a pizza and we'll eat that, and that's our dinner. It's not healthy, and I know it. But again, I have children. I'm trying to live this life of balance. And so, I think just focusing on whole food nutrition is really good. It doesn't have to be complicated. There don't have to be complicated lists. I really like this book called Fearless. And this is a book, it's called Fearless by Sarah Harnish. And this lady is incredible. Now, this book talks a lot about essential oils, but she also shares her journey of healing from brain bleeds and just chronic like migraines. And how she did that was by eating, and by eating well. So she shares a ton of nutritional information. She has a top 10 list in here of like food additives that would be wise to cut out. So for people wanting to focus on food, I think even though the book, it does talk quite a bit about essential oils, I think essential oils are a great part of a health journey, because what you will find is we are Americans and we love scent and we love fragrance. And you can go to any store and you can see it. For me, it started as a teenager. I was slathering on really heavily fragranced, the popular lotions on the bottoms of my feet every day. And I've come to find out just how dangerous that is for our body. And so I think most people want some sort of fragrance in their life. So using high quality therapeutic grade essential oils, I think can be a great part of any health journey. You don't want to be running to the grocery store or to Target to pick up your essential oils. You're needing high quality ones, because those products can actually be just as toxic as some of the heavily fragranced items that don't have essential oils. So quality is really important. I love this other book. It's called Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. It's by Carolyn Mine. So for anybody that feels like they need emotional support, this book is super fascinating, and it talks about things like trauma. So even my daughter, as she didn't go through any, big health struggle, I could just tell emotionally for years after going through what we did with my son, it really affected her emotionally. And so we needed to start working through some of the trauma that she experienced. And essential oils was just one part of that journey, but I think that that can be just so helpful. So those are a couple books I've read that I really like.
And I wrote all that stuff down, so I will find links and put it in the program notes so everyone else can find them as well. Yes, I'm a big believer in essential oils, and no, you don't want to buy them at Walmart or Target or any of those other stores. If you're looking for a source, I'll bet you she can tell you, and I can tell you because we both have a cupboard full. Do you have plans to maybe share your knowledge in a bigger way, like writing a book, hint, book, or coaching or speaking or anything?
I'm in a life stage right now where I am really open to just to helping women. I love to connect with women. Like I mentioned, I really at this point in life, I typically am connecting women more one-on-one, or I do small group meetups at my house. But I really have a heart to help. And so if there were ever speaking opportunities that came my way, I certainly would be open to it. I'm living a really full season right now with my children, and honestly, I love it. I love that my kids at 11 and 13 really like to hang out with me still. We like to do a lot of things together. And so I don't think at this point I would want to be tackling something like writing a book. Not that I would never consider doing that, but I don't think I'd be going that direction. But I do love just to spend time with women, connecting with them, helping them, whether that's with recipes, if they're struggling with where to start with food. I love to coach people with essential oils. That's just a big passion project of mine. When I first started this journey, it was hard, and it felt overwhelming and a lot. And one thing, it felt expensive. And so one of the things that I learned to do very early on is I made a lot of products, and we don't have to overcomplicate it. It can be very simple. And so I DIY a lot, and I love to help people if they're looking for just easy face wash and shampoo and deodorant and just all these things. If they want to make changes and they want to make stuff, I love to do that kind of thing as well. So I really love to just walk alongside women and just help them out wherever I can. Sometimes I'll connect with people through online groups. Because I sell elderberry and other products, sometimes friends will recommend me when people post something and ask a question. But yeah, I'm more than happy just to work with people either individually or in small groups. And that's just a passion project of mine.
So if somebody wanted to reach out to you for any of like your recipes or your elderberry or any of that stuff, how do we find you?
So I am not a big social media person, but I am trying. I do have a Facebook account. It's Jen, Jen Donald, Donald, Hight, Hight. I also can be reached by email. I don't know if people really want to connect that way as much anymore. But my email address is NWA moms, at gmail.com. I could share my phone number. I don't know. I like to text with people. So I don't know if you want me to do that here, but yeah, I'm pretty much an open book and willing to share information.
Okay. And yes, that reminded me now how I met you when you said that, because it's like she's not on social media. I don't know. Someone recommended you to me when I was looking for someone that knew about essential oils. So yes, they're like, oh, you need to talk to Jen.
Yeah.
And that's how we connected. I was sitting here when you were talking about I don't like to be on social media. It flashed through my mind like, well, how the heck did we meet? Some, someone recommended you. This has been absolutely so beneficial because so many I know there's women out there that are struggling with so many of the same problems that you struggled with, that I struggled with, that so many women are still struggling with. So to have someone actually walk them through that journey and show them that there is hope on the other side and there are things that you can do, and medical gaslighting is real and it exists. If you listen to some of our other podcasts on women's health and wellness, you'll know that it's alive and well and living, and we have to stand up for ourselves and start taking control of our own health. So I am glad that
Mhm.
you shared that journey with us to show women that it is possible and that you can heal yourself. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off and say goodbye?
Well, I just thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been great connecting and getting to know you and your story a little bit as well.
And if you know women out there that need to hear this, you know the drill, ladies. Like, share, comment, and do all the stuff. We are growing. I was so pleased. If you have not actually checked numbers in a while, I'm really bad about that. I know as a business person, I'm told I'm supposed to check my analytics like constantly, and I don't. Okay, so I was really pleased to see that I picked up a few more subscribers since the last time I looked. So it's working. Do your thing. Like, share, comment, hit the little bell, whatever it is you're supposed to do. I'm so techie, I know all the terms, right? But let's get the word out there so that more people, more women can get the help they need. Jen, it's been great, and thank you. I will talk to you again soon, I hope, because I'm running low on elderberry. We need to hook up.
Thanks so much.